Hi, I'm your host Kelly Bowen, and you are listening to the Lifestyle Finance Australia show, which is dedicated to creating greater awareness about the power of leveraging finance when it comes to accelerating your growth and personal development. And we celebrate the hundreds of coaches, thought leaders, and game changers we support. This is a platform where you can meet some of the world's best experts in online business, trauma healing, digital marketing, relationship coaching, abundance and wealth creation, spiritual ascension, body healing, and wellness. So if you're looking for your next coach, healer, or mentor to take you on the next step in your journey, this is the show for you. Let's play. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Lifestyle Finance Show. Today, I have a super special guest. There have been 4 women in my life that has had incredible influence over the woman I have become. One was my water skiing coach. One has been my sister, the other my best friend, and today's special guest is the 4th. And I know I would not be anywhere near where I am without the wisdom of this beautiful guest. Remi Pearson is an entrepreneur, author and speaker who founded the Coaching Institute in 2004, and her team has trained over 11,000 coaches throughout the world. They offer evidence-based coaching training as well as personal development courses, and they're in over 103 countries. She has a hugely successful podcast, Braveheart, which has generated over 12 million views, and the Braveheart app supporting people in their quest to live consciously. Remi wrote her the first diploma of life coaching in the world. She has a master's in applied positive psychology and is the creator of metadynamics coaching methodologies. She has 2 best-selling books, Ultimate You and Disruptive Leadership. She loves talking about how to empower ourselves to live with fierce self-love and compassion. Welcome to the show, Remi Pearson.
That's really kind of you. I didn't know I was in one of the 4. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We go back a long way.
Pardon?
We go back a long way.
We do go back a long way. The Coaching Institute has had a profound impact on what I do and where I'm currently at. So tell me a little bit about where you're currently at, because one thing that I've always loved about you and watching your journey is that you've been so far ahead of the curve of where coaching has been going and where it's been evolving. And I really love all of the nervous system regulation that you've been bringing into the coaching space. Can you talk to me a little bit about this and like what led you to this path and how you saw this gap?
I think I'm really fortunate in that I'm not a mismatcher as such, but I'm definitely somebody, some people look for sameness and some people look for differences.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a look for differences. So if there's a lot of words, I'm going to look at the white space.
Yeah.
If there's space, I'm going to look for where there's like, I'm always looking at the Venn diagram or the consequence, or what if that wasn't like that? I think that's the way my brain is. So that's a fortunate thing. And also I've looked at the research. I have a master's now in pos psych, and I got an opportunity to read pretty well. I read pretty well most of the research in coaching, and it's not that strong. I'm not impressed. In terms of data samples, replicability, which we've heard has got a lot of issues, even their results statistically, I'm just not overwhelmed. And then my own experience, I've been doing this for 20 years. And as you know, I stopped coaching people towards goals a while back, and we don't teach really, we teach the basics. We teach a basic goal setting method, which is the DARE model. But then we do a big caveat. It's almost like the warning label. Goal setting is the external, and it's hiding, masking, and disguising us from a feeling we don't know how to give ourselves. So if you have the goal of having a promotion, for example, why do you want the promotion? I'll feel good. What would you feel? I'd feel that I matter. Can we not just coach you so that you matter?
Yeah.
And then decide, is your purpose to have the goal of having the promotion, which is coming from purpose-driven rather than trying to fulfill my needs through the external world kind of model. And we're raised in a Western world to go for goals. That's the basis of coaching around the world. It's built on Sir John Whitmore's GROW model.
Mm-hmm.
Goal setting is considered it's sacred.
Yeah.
And I just started questioning it as my coaching became more and more coaching the client on the being rather than the doing and the having, which led to the doing and the having. my clients are getting transformational results that are sustainable and are fulfilling to them, that are self-sustaining, self-nurturing, and come from self, not I have to have something and do something to feel a certain way. Doesn't that make sense? Isn't what I'm saying just making sense? So you joined the school back when it's still more a traditional coaching model?
I did. Yep.
Now, as you know, I think you do, most of what we teach early on is about self-regulation, how to sit with uncomfortable feelings, how to sit with that which is causing us distress or anxiety or overwhelm, and then what to do about it. Because unless we can sit with ourselves in our dysregulation, we're going to keep hitting goals thinking it'll get us out of our dysregulation.
100%.
It's just a Band-Aid after a Band-Aid after a Band-Aid. And people live their entire lives this way. They go to their graves with just covered in Band-Aids instead of healing the wound. So most of our coach training now is, well, how do we be with ourselves? How do we help those core wounds? How do we sit with what hurts? How do we go into the darkness to find our light? How do we recognize the purpose of our lives is not to feel better, but to feel joy and inner peace naturally as we have a purpose-driven life? You know, if the purpose of our life is just to get what we want to feel good, we're constantly be consuming the world. You know, I've got to get my way to feel good. 8 billion people living that model, everyone's going to be getting what they want. So, and as you know, like when we met 2013, even then I was saying, I don't like the model be, do, have. I like the model be, do, give. So how do we help people get to a space of spaciousness and abundance? The being has to be spacious and abundant. You can't do your way. You can't climb your way to a mountain and feel like you're enough. No amount of out there will make you feel enough, because if you're going for out there to be enough, it presupposes you're not enough and something out there will fix it. And you get that thing, and then the ego, the personality goes, well, that's not it. What's next? That's not it. What's next? And that's a lifetime gone.
Yes.
Instead, let's climb the mountain of ourselves. So that's how I philosophically, the short answer of how we got to this different kind of coaching model, metadynamics.
Yeah, thank you. And I so deeply resonate with everything that you shared there. And even when you like watch people going on the entrepreneur journey, so many people, very successful people, have created everything they have out of this exact space that you're speaking of, where they go for the big goal. When I have this big dream, or I make the amount of money, or I have the relationship or the thing, then I should be happy. And they get to that point and they're like, why do I still feel so deeply unfulfilled? Yeah, my story too, same thing. And there comes this point, right, where you realize, and so many of the people in my space that I love dealing with, all at different times, literally hit this point and gone, hold on a minute, why am I doing this? And I still remember when you released Ultimate You, at the time, like I was so deep, like I was right at that kind of like crash point where I was like, everything I was doing that was meant to make me feel happy wasn't. And when I started going on the Ultimate You journey, that book in a sense saved my life and opened my eyes to this whole other way of living and being, and understanding what self-love is, and then being introduced to all of these roles that I'm playing to try and like be seen as worthy, enough, or lovable, and how I keep trying to achieve those needs as opposed to actually creating the goal. Like when you talk about your two truths, and then learning how to feel those emotions. Oh my goodness, was that like, I thought I was feeling emotions until 2021 come around, and that was a whole new level of ball game of like crashing into that as well, because I was still using, even though in my awareness at the time I thought that I was feeling, but I wasn't even scratching the surface, because I hit this level in my business where I'd had a certain amount of time freedom and money freedom, which meant I couldn't pour all of my busyness into the things that I was avoiding. And then I was just crashed into feeling like frustrated, apathy, boredom. And here I was thinking, oh, I've got this thing. Now I can live life and I can go on adventures and do things. And oh no, I had a wild spiritual awakening at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, and all of the feelings. And I think this is where, like, and particularly with the nervous system regulation, I would love to go into these places today, because I know in the previous conversations we've had, Remi, you've spoken about how when you're working with very successful people, this is where you're taking them. And yet once we start to step into this place and give ourselves permission to feel and actually start to let go of some of these things that we've thought we've had to do to be enough or to be worthy or to be loved, we've got to face off with this. But often we feel worse before we feel better. And I'd love to normalize this experience, to bring hope and talk about what some of the different stages are when you're brave enough, whether it be consciously or unconsciously, putting your hand up to take this journey.
Yeah, so I wish for everyone who wants to, a moment of desperation where waking up is the only way. One of the things you've heard me say many times on stage is, I hope I let you down enough for you to have to face how you truly feel about me. Because a lot of people say, I love you, I love you. Let me disappoint you and see how you really feel.
Yep.
And it's the same. I use that as a metaphor for the spiritual journey. Well, let's give you a moment of desperation and see how you really feel about spirituality. Because the ads don't come with the warning label, and it should in the beginning. It's going to get really dark, MFs. You're not going to be happy. It's
yes.
so dark. It's going to get so bleak, and you're going to feel so alone, and you're going to feel like it's never going to end. And it's going to be so bleak. It's a good thing I'm a motivational speaker, isn't it?
Right. Get the rah-rah out when the windows are the darkest.
This is the rah-rah. It's going to be bleak, and it's going to be dark, and it's going to feel like you're never going to come out of the tunnel, and the light never appears. People say there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. You can start this spiritual journey and there's no light. There's no light. It's just darkness after darkness after darkness. Hours, I know you've cried and I've cried facing our darkness.
Yeah.
So that's the first, not cheerful, but truthful. Let's normalize how dark it gets.
Yeah.
How bleak it feels. Moments of hopelessness and despair, like, where are my people?
Yes.
You lose touch. You can no longer have the same conversations you were having before that turning point, however that happened. That moment of waking up, for me, it was a moment of desperation. You just can't go back to having those same conversations. You can't sit with the same BS anymore. Speaking up becomes the way, whereas before these people would have expected compromise from you. Let's normalize. You're going to need to withdraw a little bit and create some physical, emotional, and mental distance, and just create an emotional energy protection around you, just to give yourself the spaciousness needed to make it okay to be alone. Let's normalize aloneness, normalize sadness, normalize grief, doing this work, and normalize shame.
Yeah.
That literally are the requirements, though. You've got to face anger, sadness, fear, grief, and shame. You must.
Still want to come on the journey?
I know. It's the best night ever. Yay. It's spirituality. The tulips with the So normalizing feeling those feelings. It is normal, whether you're on a spiritual journey or not, to feel lonely and sadness at times. They're normal. And we have this huge shame culture around feeling shame if we feel alone or sad. And I think it's just so important to normalize it. And the other thing to normalize is most people are dysregulated and don't know how to get to self-regulation. Most adults were never taught how to sit with a difficult emotion and how to process it in a healthy way, and release it, and then go through the day. Most people are literally ill-equipped for the basics of self-regulation. The few people I meet who are capable of self-regulation, phenomenal families. I've met 2 families like that in my life. How many of you met where there actually is? I think you told me there was one.
Yeah, I've got, my best friend, the one that sat with me in my darkness. She is the most regulated person I've ever met. And I go to her if I'm feeling a bit funny and I just need to be with someone. She's incredible.
Yeah. Well, that means she can hold space. Does she self-regulate?
She does. She really does. 100%.
And it shouldn't be a superpower, but it needs to be. It's true. It really is. And self-regulation is self-regulation of emotions and behaviors. There's 2 different types. There's a lot of research on this. And self-regulation is the capacity, the capability to monitor, sit with, address, be okay with what's coming up, and do what's necessary. So self-regulation of behavior is, I'm going to take care of business that needs to be done. Self-regulation of emotions is, I'm feeling this way and I know how to process it without outbursts of anger, for example, or days of crying. And I'm not making any of that wrong. I'm just saying if you're self-regulated, you know how to process it and experience it and share it in a way that's very appropriate and can land well for somebody else who's self-regulated. So that's what we're talking about. And these are rare skills these days. And as you know, most of my time now is spent teaching my clients, high-level multimillionaire entrepreneurs, how to firstly self-regulate and then start doing the healing work. Because as you know, my entire business, the Coaching Institute, is a trauma response.
Yes, you've said that before.
This multi-million-dollar business.
Oh, it's a laugh of irony, isn't it? And then you kind of look at it, the force for good that your trauma response has been, and then it's like this double-edged sword of.
It's when I realized, because I am so love it so much, but I used to feel such pride that I created it. And then I started learning, I had to achieve a lot because of the way my parents gave me approval rather than love. I could never let anybody know that I had needs because that would make me feel vulnerable and my needs weren't met in childhood. I had to be the best. And it just like click moment after moment. I did all of that because my mask of being the hero literally ran my life for years.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lot of the entrepreneurs I coach in the same position. It's like, okay, so I created all this success out of a trauma response. Who am I if I'm not a trauma response?
Right.
And that's a profound question. You know, a lot of my clients eventually get to this place of, well, who am I if I'm not responding from my trauma? Who am I if I'm not responding from the role or the mask I'm playing, be it the hero, the super together person, the caretaker of others, or whatever that role is. There's like 9 major roles that I generally talk about, 9 or 10. And then the other thing is realizing, if I can just keep going a little bit, because this really ties to that, and I'm just realizing it more and more lately. People don't like me saying this. Our personalities are generally a trauma response. Most of our personality is formed out of trauma. It's a way to protect us from predicted hurt, prevent that hurt, and create a way of experiencing the unknown with a level of predictability. So the unknown by definition is unknown. The ego, the personality, doesn't like the unknown. So what it's going to do is try to create a world and environment where it is known. And so if we act a certain way, even if we get a bad response, we know the response.
Yes.
So personality, a lot of it, God, people react when I say this. Are you sure? It's like, I think I'm coming to believe is a response to the trauma experienced in childhood, little t trauma, not necessarily big T trauma.
Yep.
Just parents late to pick you up, parents not turning up to the school play, being told no at a time that it really mattered to you. Yes, this is normal parenting. Creates trauma in a child who is completely selfish, normally so. That's completely all about themselves. They have no capacity to comprehend others or what that entails, who believe in magical thinking, that the world revolves around them and they're the cause of everything, who is absolutist, believes that everything's right or wrong, good or bad, and if it's wrong, it's them, and who has the incapacity to conceive that their parents make mistakes. If the parent make mistakes, they internalize it as, I'm a mistake. So there's your little t trauma. And all of us grow up with it, and we create personalities, aspects of ourselves to handle never feeling that again. So when the client comes to me and they've created success or whatever they've done, they're saying, well, what is my life that I've built? If I've built it out of a trauma response, what life would I have if I wasn't this? And so what I do with the clients is help them self-regulate. That's often 2 or 3 months, and then start doing the healing work to start integrating. I call it, you know, this, the emotion integration technique, start integrating different aspects of personality that are protective mechanisms until it's integrated into self-led. And then the client becomes self-led to be able to, self-led meaning from divinity, from source, from truth, from who I am under these barriers, layers, protections that I've over many, many years and perfected. And then the client gets to start making decisions from this safe space that's within them. And the goal becomes about from this safe space within them, not from, will the goal make me safe? I feel safe within myself. I feel calm. I have clarity. I feel compassion for myself. I feel grounded. I feel centered. I feel adventurous. I feel playful. My purpose now is to share this with the world. What would I now do? So that's the philosophy I now bring to the work that, and you know this is the work I now do.
Yeah, and it's so powerful going through that technique. I was just that whole concept that you speak of, if I'm not like, and I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you that so much of our personality is a trauma response. And I back you wholeheartedly, having been through unpacking my trauma response personality. There was a book I read, it was by Pete Walker, called From Surviving to Thriving. CPTSD, like complex post-traumatic stress disorder, something. But what he does in there, he breaks down the 4 defense mechanisms. So fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, and then each one of the behaviors underneath it.
Fix.
Fix.
Yeah.
Okay.
Flight, fight, fawn, fix, and freeze.
Freeze. Okay. I want to hear about fix.
Yeah, I have 5 in the book I'm writing now.
Oh, sexy. But what I saw within this, I do want to hear about fix, because we're circling back to that. But what I saw in this, like each one of the behaviors for the maladaptive coping strategy to create safety, and the belief for running each one of the programs, I was like, oh my goodness. And then like watching every time I wanted to run a behavior strategy to make myself feel safe, or to feel controlled in a situation, or to be perfect, to be loved, or whatever it was literally, I felt like a fish on a hook. Like everywhere I went to move, I was like, that's not you, that's not you, that's not you. And it's so confusing then having to learn and go, okay, and coming back to that place that you mentioned, the self-regulation, the calm, the curiosity, the compassion, to be like, okay, so if I am to respond for my true self, how do I want to respond? And respond being the key word here, not reaction, because everything else is a reaction and happens automatically. And
I don't think we get to self-led until we've done a bunch of self-regulation work and integration work. I think the self is disguised and hidden and not believable whilst we're still dysregulated, because it really does take a fair, I would say, 1 to 2 years to come from a mindful, self-compassionate place, self-accepting place automatically.
Yeah.
And so I always say to clients, give it 1 to 2 years, especially if you come from a traumatic relationship or an abusive relationship. It's about 2 years for the nervous system to start believing the new messages it's getting and how to interpret them in a healthier way. It's a pretty major overhaul of a nervous system we're doing. The vagal nerve, it's wired in childhood, and we're literally inviting it to experience a different reality that's massive.
Yeah, it's a completely different operating system. I love it. If you're open to it and it's ready, I'd love to hear a little bit about fixed. What is the fixed response, please?
So it's the caretaker, the hero. This is my area.
Yeah, I love it. Let's go.
I got this t-shirt.
Yeah, me too.
I don't have any problems. Let me help you.
I'm just going to offload all of my shit by fixing you, so I don't have to deal with this.
I'm not even aware I have anything to deal with, because I'm so together and I've got everything so wired. Let me put all my effort into you. I'm a very successful coach doing it. That's the fix.
Yep.
It's most psychologists, a lot of therapists, it's a lot of therapists, psychologists, coaches. We do it because there's an aspect of ourselves that we believe needs fixing, which I think is the ultimate self-abuse, that we need to be fixed. And instead of dealing with that, because we don't know how, we're not taught, which is obviously what we do, we externalize it and we try to fix the world around us. And if we can make people around us safer, we'll feel safer.
Yes. So yeah, okay. I love the differentiation in that, because every time I've spoken about fawning in the past myself, I've always called it the overfunction of fawning, which is the hero, the rescuer, the martyr, the overfunction part, where I will save you, I will take care of you, as opposed to the other side, which is the people pleasing, the doormat, subservient. So I do like that differentiation, and I absolutely resonate.
Yeah. So in the fawn category, like you said, people pleasing, doormatting, codependency, those kind of patterns fits in the fawn.
Yeah.
The flight is the avoidant, and the fight is the anxiously attached. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something I've heard you say before, and I'd love to go into this a little bit. that telling somebody to love themselves is like the meanest, cruelest thing that you could ever tell someone to do, because most people have no idea what that fucking concept is. Can we go into that and break that down, like what this concept of self-love and self-compassion is?
There's a few things hopefully my students get the message on that we don't say to clients. You've got to learn to love yourself. Or this one, I consider it abusive to say to somebody, let me help you change.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Yeah, I call that. So yeah, literally I'm saying that most coaching models have a premise of change. I'm going to say, I don't coach to change anyone. I don't coach. I just think I really do think it's abusive to say to somebody, you need to change or let me help you change.
Yeah,
so my
I do.
is tell me what we can reveal, or what is it that we're going to bring into consciousness. So we're going to expand consciousness to include that which already exists, but we're not going to change. By changing ourselves, it presupposes something about us is faulty. The not enoughness is now quite large. And by
I
saying
really
somebody,
like
you
that.
need to learn self-love, I think that's incorrect. Everyone has self-love. They've just laid it over with self-loathing and criticism. So we need to learn, we're invited to learn to release the self-loathing, the self-judgment, and we have ways of doing that. We're just releasing. We're not changing anyone. We're just releasing the aspects of ourselves that were created in a traumatic moment. And by releasing that aspect, or transmuting that aspect, or integrating that aspect within ourselves, it no longer is carrying this big burden of, I've got to fix you. I've got to give you a happier life. Why aren't you more successful? Now it's with you in the self-led journey of to know, experience, and adore the love that's already there. So the presupposition is the love is already there, the self-acceptance is already there, rather than I'm going to be your coach, and I'm going to teach you self-love. That's so arrogant. That's implying the client doesn't already have it within them. I'm going to help you change. What is it you want to change this week? No, tell me what we're going to be revealing. What are we going to be bringing to the light? Where are we going to be journeying? What type of experience of consciousness are you having this week? I worked with a client yesterday who's been doing great for ages. We've been doing stacks of transformational work, the emotion integration technique, so often. And he's got to a level of self-ledness. And we didn't coach for a little while. And we got on the session yesterday, and it was like some of the work it looked like it undone. He felt he felt ashamed. He felt like he'd backslid, would be the language he used. And he was beating up on himself, and it came out as dysregulation, expressive dysregulation rather than turning on self dysregulation. And he wanted to fix the things he thought were causing it. So there was a problem with this and a problem with that. I said, let's just hit pause. And this is what I basically said to him. This is tough. What you're feeling is a lot. It's okay to feel what you're feeling. You're in a safe space as those feelings come up. All those feelings are welcome, and they don't need a reason or an excuse to be. Whatever is going on, whatever is happening, I'm with you, and I will not turn away. And I spoke like that for about 3 or 4 minutes. And he just said this huge weight came off his shoulders, because he was so ashamed of being not together, the hero archetype, that he became immobilized. And I just normalized him feeling hurt and afraid. And by making it okay for him to feel hurt and afraid, the problem transmuted into it is what it is, and how I feel is acceptable. That was the coaching. And so I'm not helping anyone change. I'm just helping people reveal their own safety, that they're resourced, that we can navigate this, that they're not alone, that they're able to sit with difficult emotions, that not everything is fixable on the outside, and comforting ourselves during disappointment is okay. And then really turned, I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was, I love this line from, I'm going to give credit to Buddhism, but I could be wrong. Can you be at peace with not feeling at peace? Because he felt so dysregulated. We so often want to get regulated. Well, actually, let's not do that. Let's just make it okay that you don't feel okay. Can we normalize you not feeling okay? Can we normalize that you don't feel together? Can we normalize that you feel overwhelmed? Can we normalize that you feel vulnerable and afraid right now? Can we normalize that? And he goes, yeah, well, let's welcome it. We're done. And the session was normalizing his experience of himself and his experience of consciousness rather than trying to make it something better. It's bad enough he feels shame that he's feeling his emotions. Now I'm going to come along like super coach and tell him how to feel differently. It's like the arrogance of that.
Yeah, I've never I really love this consciousness shift, and I know there are a lot of coaches that listen to this show because we support coaches. So hearing that shift, and it's something I've just never taken the time to think about, like, what is the presupposition of coaching? Like, what is the agreed to presupposition, which is I'm going to help fix whatever your problem is, which then presupposes there is something broken. And I really love that shift. And I'm definitely going to be taking it with me in terms of, like, what can we help reveal here? What can we invite into this consciousness space? And because there's aspects where I know for myself, I've definitely been like unconsciously doing that, but also still running on the old thing of coaching. We help people become the best versions of themselves and not thinking anything more about, like, what are the presuppositions behind that, which in itself is somewhat taking away the agency of the individual, even if it's an unconscious presupposition, because what we're really wanting to do is create the presupposition that there is everything within the client, which also do believe that they're kind of conflicting, if that makes sense. Like,
well,
the coaching model
they would be under that model. With the way I'm doing it, there's no conflict. I'm only there to help the client reveal their spaciousness and their capacity. That's it. And all I do is just keep, there's more to it than that, but I'm just constantly bringing it back to, let's reveal this aspect of yourself that's there. It might be hidden under an obstacle of hurt or pain or shame, and that's okay. Let's be with the hurt, the pain, and the shame until it feels heard, seen, understood, acceptable. You know, the fastest, if you want to change something, love your hurt. There you go. That's it. You want to change, love what hurts, love what feels like shame, love what feels scary, love what feels like grief. Learn to love, fully love those aspects of yourself. The world changes. Now, can I talk about the second piece to that?
Yeah, please. Yeah. Absolutely, please.
Because I don't want to oversimplify what's going on. It's not just love your parts.
It's so much more.
It's so much more. There's this idea that we have, that the personality has, or the ego has, however you want to label it, that the world should be a certain way or shouldn't be a certain way. So we all have our rules about how the world should be and shouldn't be, how conversations should happen and shouldn't happen, how people should behave and shouldn't behave. We all have our own versions of this. So there's preferences and non-preferences. So I prefer X happens, and I prefer if X, Y didn't happen. And we go out into the world sorting based on preferences and not, well, I don't want that because that's a non-preference. So I'm going to get away from that. That's a preference. So I'm going to want more of that. So it's very simply the butterfly versus the snake. You know, I want more butterflies. I want way less snakes. And we live our lives, butterflies, yes, snakes, no. And because of that, we're limiting our experience of our consciousness because we're filtering in what is a butterfly simply, and we're trying to push out the snakes or what we don't want. And because of that, we're trying to control the universe. Now, the universe has been going for 13.8 billion years just fine without our preferences. And then
good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. I come along with my preference about how the universe should be. All the best, Remi. And so a lot of the coaching I'm doing and the work I'm doing for me every day is, so something happened yesterday. I was at yoga. Someone spoke in a way that isn't a preference to me. So it was a snake. And old me would have maybe said something because I'm so brave and so helpful.
They need to know.
Authenticity. And instead, what I chose to do was notice I had snake, non-preference. And I spent the rest of the time sitting with my discomfort around me not getting my way. Now, that is way more productive use of your consciousness than worrying about what they did. So I teach my clients and my students put a lot less effort into what happened and what should have happened, and turn all that attention to what comes up for you because of it. That's the journey to self. You want to find your darkness to get to your lightness. It's that. It's this constant mindful turning it back on self. The very simple example, someone cuts you off in traffic. We can yell at them. They can't hear a word we're saying. We're hurting ourselves, but knock yourself out. Or we can sit for the next 10 minutes fuming, or we can sit with ourselves. Why is this coming up for me? What's the big deal around entitlement and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so they're the two main pieces I'm bringing to the coaching in the simplest form. One is, can we sit with the discomfort? And the other piece is, well, what is it you're preferring happened here? Like, how do you think your wife was meant to have behaved? What should have happened? What was the yoga teacher supposed to have done? Which you can put all your energy into trying to control, or stop doing that. Notice it triggered you, created a reaction, you wanted to correct it, change it, get the universe back on your course, not its course, and sit with, well, what did it bring up in me? And so, for example, yesterday it brought up, well, this is really just, you can edit it. I'm so embarrassed about to say this. For me.
I've got you. Let's do this.
I had this idea around how our relationship, I'm getting uncomfortable, our relationship was supposed to be. I think that she knows better than that. That was really not thoughtful. I'd never do that. I could go on. It was that kind of thing. And the longer I sat with it, and I kept asking myself better questions. So I reflected back. So Remi, you've got a really strong preference here around how another human being should behave. How come? Well, because then I'd feel safe with them. How come? Because I just want to feel safe with people I'm with. So she's responsible without knowing to help you feel safe within yourself. How about you do that for yourself instead of expecting somebody who doesn't even know they've got this important job to do? How about you do that for yourself? Yeah, fair point, Remi. I should probably feel safe within myself regardless of what. And that was my next hour. Just bringing it, that's what I mean by bringing it back to self. It's not what does she need to change? It's how do I think it should be? Why do I think it should be that way? And what is that helping point to within me that I need to sit with? And it's my own healing codependency, basically, after being raised with quite a bit of narcissism. It's healing that aspect of me that thinks everyone should be lovely. It's just this complete illusion that everyone should be lovely and thoughtful. And she was dysregulated. And when we're not self-regulated and not self-aware, we don't take that into account.
Yeah.
We think that they should know better. So instead of me doing that, I went away and said, Remi, you, if you think she should know better, go and know better yourself first. It's like the guru, the mother brings the child to the guru and says, make my son stop having sugar. And the guru says, go away for 2 weeks. Comes back 2 weeks later. Stop eating sugar. Why did I have to go away for 2 weeks? I had to stop having sugar. So
yeah, the embodiment piece, huh?
Yeah. So it's the moment we stop thinking how things and people should be and start asking, what is it about us that we feel is missing that creates that preference and non-preference? We're starting to do the work. And that's for anything. Like if you do too much social media, okay. So the social media algorithm is evil. You can do a whole TV show. It has been done on that. Or you can say, what is it about me that I'm wanting to escape from that causes me to spend so long on social media? What is it that I don't want to sit with? What is it that I'm uncomfortable with that I'm not really tuning into, or I'm denying, or I'm rejecting, or I'm ignoring or shaming? If I didn't have social media, what would be coming up for me? Would I have another distraction, or what would I have to sit with? Fastest way to know what triggers you is go and sit in a quiet room for an hour and just face curtains or a wall. And notice what your thoughts go. They start blaming people and situations and parts.
Oh, my mind loves to ruminate. As soon as I start ruminating, I'm like, okay, what are you using this little distraction tool to not feel?
Yeah. And it's okay to do it if you do it consciously. Like I can get into Instagram. I follow nature videos around the world.
Oh, yeah, cool.
I love it. I just love it. And I go, okay, be aware, Remi, that right now, if this goes for more than 5 minutes, you're probably escaping a discomfort. You're probably avoiding an aspect of self. Easy to blame this lady. I can put time and effort into blaming her rudeness, or I can go and put the effort in. What is that bringing up in you that you're not wanting to deal with? The person can cut you off in traffic and can be angry and upset and feel entitled that they don't do that. Or you can sit with, how come this seems to be so important when it's inevitable someone's going to cut me off in the traffic?
Yeah.
And it rains on a special day and we get upset with the weather. We can spend time upset about the weather, or we can say, what is it that I'm not wanting to sit with right now? And it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that real-time example of how you're doing the work in the moment. I could feel how you felt uncomfortable with it. And I think it's so powerful you being willing to share that, because that is the work in motion. And right before you went there, you said something before, and I wrote down safety, because that was the next thing where I wanted to go to talk about. With nervous systems, it's all about safety and resourcing this inner safety. And then you gave this beautiful real life example of externally resourcing safety and what happens when that happens. So it was so perfect and timely. And I'd love to just go into safety a little bit more from the perspective that, how do we create the internal resource of safety? Because this is the core of self-regulation, yet we so often externally look to this. I remember for myself, one of the first projects I did with safety, and I didn't even realize I'd done this, was I was doing this course called Pleasure After Trauma, and I'd resourced my bed as my safe place. And I wasn't even consciously aware that I just externally resourced my safety. But then I'd get really funny if anybody wanted to stay in my bed. So whether it be a friend, a lover, like who was it? How long had it been? Even if I wasn't in my bed and I was letting people stay, but in that space, I'm like, why am I getting so like hoity-toity about people in my bed? And then when I realized, it clicked, and I was like, I've resourced my safety to my bed.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, that's okay to begin with, but now let's learn how to feel safety within this physical being, how to be in this being. Yes. So I'd be curious to hear, what is your process in terms of how do you feel safe within your being? So regardless of how said yoga teacher or external environment or person in my bed is showing up, that you still feel safe.
It's taken a while. So firstly, the sentence I say a lot to myself and to my clients is, you're safe. Like right now, you're safe. At a spiritual level, we're safe. Mm-hmm. Right now, we are safe. That's the truth. Even if someone's yelling at us, we're safe. Yeah. We are. Like someone upsetting us, we're still safe. And I'll go further at the spiritual level. This is what my shaman said to me. Even in the face of a physical threat, you're still ultimately safe. That part of you that is sacred, that is divine, is not blemished by anything here. There is this constance. There is a constant through us, a perpetual that never ends, of the eternal, and it's always safe. It can't not be. So that's always there. But then we disguise it and we forget that. And we're like, well, hang on. Good on you, Remi.
Welcome to Earth School.
That's great, but I don't feel safe. So let's start with that. So that's the divine answer. We're at a divine level, sacred level, we're safe. But now what do we need to do? I've got about 40 tools, but where I started was, and boy, did it not work for a while. Can I? It's a bit like getting up to the plank for 3 minutes. That doesn't happen overnight. Yeah. And some guy comes along to compete with me and goes, oh, only 3 minutes. I'm like, masculine energy. I'm all good with the 3. Thank you very much. Anyway. 10 seconds, I'll have you know. Yeah. It is a basic box breathing. So it's 4 breaths in slowly, hold for 4, out slowly, out, and then no breath for 4. And it is completely useless for the first 2 months, but it will eventually, like doing push-ups, have a return on investment.
Agreed.
I wish somebody had told me that. Don't you agree? Like, because in the beginning, nothing's changing. Yeah,
same with like some of like the hugging and some of the other vagal reset exercises. Like, this isn't doing anything. This isn't nor does going to the gym once.
Yeah, it's exactly. Or yes, doing the dusting, which should only be done once. But anyway, so there's box breathing. Then there's hugging. I do a number of meditations that I'm happy to share with your viewers where it's just, I have so many of these. These have been so powerful and profound. It's something like I did before. Remi, you're so great now. You're okay. And slowing my breathing and slowing my speech, deepening my voice. This is difficult. You're doing hard things. It feels like so much, but that doesn't make you too much. You will never be too much for me. I will never turn away from you. Whatever you bring is welcome. I will never shame you for feeling what you're feeling, and so on. Like I've got a number of those. Do you remember those from EIT?
I sure do. Yeah, it's beautiful, self-soothing.
So I developed those myself, and now I share them. So over and over, I would write them in the phone. I would have it on my mirror, just reminders. You're okay. You're not too much. Having needs doesn't make you needy. And I'm leaving out heaps of steps because there's so much to this, but then I stopped hanging out with people who did not welcome me, but only liked the compromised, convenient version of me. That was really tough because that included a couple of family members.
That would be brutal. It is brutal.
Really tough.
Yeah.
But I had to decide my nervous system needed to be downregulated a lot. I really needed to bring it into some level of sanity.
Yeah.
So access to me became a privilege and not a right. That's something that came in quite early. I then did stacks of work around boundaries and not just saying no to people, but saying, I'm not okay with X, Y, and Z. That's probably not going to vibe with me. And then what I do before was hope it didn't hurt their feelings. What I learned to do was notice how it landed on their nervous system. So it'd be a really gentle thing. So I was talking to a guy on the phone that we might have been having a date. He said something really uncool. And I just said really mildly. So one of the things I'll say right now is don't be aggressive. Don't be evangelistic. Nobody needs to be put in their places because you've had an awakening. No one signed up for the awakening just because you signed up for the awakening.
Yes.
So just
Oh my God,
really
yes.
gently, that's probably not going to vibe with me. That's probably not my space. He goes, oh, whatever. It's okay. I think we'll leave it there. So instead of me trying to think, how do I make it okay, which was part of my codependence and my pattern, I have the feedback I need. This person can't be in my space because their nervous system cannot tolerate healthy boundaries and them being expressed. So I began to gauge who could have access to me based on people who could hear a healthy boundary. That's probably not going to vibe with me. You know, I'm probably going to want a little bit more of an explanation for what just happened, because right now that's not going to probably work for me moving forward. There's really cool, understated, exploratory, respectful questions. And I started to relearn things I never learned in childhood, how people can react or respond depending on their lack of self-regulation to simple, respectful requests for a need to be met. I started expressing needs, and these are the basic universal needs. We need to feel we belong. We need to feel accepted and acceptable. We need to, not by everybody and not all the time, to feel heard, seen, understood. We need to feel that we matter and that we're a priority, not to everyone and not all the time. We need to learn how to meet these needs for ourselves. And then everything changed when I learned how to meet all of those needs for myself. So I learned how to reassure myself, how to be acceptable to myself, which is the EIT technique. I learned how to meet the need for belonging. Instead of trying to fit in, I belong to my values and my sacred circle of me.
That's a huge one, that.
Yeah.
Knowing where your internal benchmarks are.
Yeah, my standards don't get compromised because people don't want me to be what I am. So I went through that process, and then I did major, that's like skimming the surface, just the self-regulatory system, the nervous system online. That just gives it maybe having an idea that something's going to change. That's not the work. Then I did the work, which is someone would say something or do something that was highly triggering to me. And instead of externalizing it and taking it to them and expecting them to fix it, which was my pattern, I would go and sit with myself. What's coming up for me? Where is it in my body? What's the sensation? What does that sensation want to know? What does it want to tell me? I appreciate it being here. I investigated it and I allowed it and I cherished it until, and this takes about a year.
Keep going, little fish.
Eventually we start to fall in love with those hurt parts of us. And as we fall in love with them, love heals them. We will never heal a triggered part through condemnation, judging it, criticizing it, blaming it, rejecting it, shaming it, wishing it didn't exist. The path to our landing within ourselves and to feel centered is to love those parts of us that feel the least acceptable until we adore them. So I get with a client now and they bring a hurt part and I say, that's my favorite aspect of you. I love that about you.
I love that.
I just love, and I mean it, because that's their most vulnerable, hurt little child that needs adult safe loving. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad that part's here. I love that about you. And the client says, ah. So I do that for myself. That took a while to learn.
It's beautiful.
And that's doing the real work. And then also accepting the tunnel is long and dark and it will end when it ends. You don't know when it's going to end. You can't put a time limit. I think I'm still going through it in some ways because I keep evolving there and making healthier decisions for myself that risk discomforting others. So yeah, no, I'm not going to be doing that at Christmas. People got upset, but I'm not doing that at Christmas. That's not how it's going to be for me.
Yeah, good for you.
Well, yeah, thank you. Why not? I'm not explaining it. I feel I've explained things enough in the past. I'm actually just pretty good with my decision. Thousands of those. That is the short answer of what I've done for the last 5 years.
Yeah, I was expecting something like, well, I like to feel my lungs against my ribs and being in a body, but that was awesome. You went like, here's all of the boxes in a very big high level overview of all of the different components that need to be gone through in order to create that inner sense of safety.
They are the meta. That's the meta of the 5 major chunks that we need to address and we can't ignore. And our bodies are imploring us to do this for ourselves.
Yeah, and it manifests as sickness.
It does. I'm saying exercise and health, drinking water, taking the right nutrients, eating healthily and cleanly, exercising. You want to feel depressed and anxious, sit down for a long time and think about your problems. Get moving. Even if you're not working, go and get a job where you're working all day. I don't care if it's waiting or waitressing or whatever you want, whatever it is, move all day, work all day whilst you're doing the work. None of this BS. I'm going to work on myself and then I'm going to launch myself at life. Launch yourself at life as you do the healing work. It will help so much because sitting and ruminating, there is no research showing that helps. It actually makes us feel worse. So go live and reveal yourself through the lived experience.
Yeah, I love that you put that in there about moving. That was one of the biggest things that pulled me out of the loop, feeling like I'm just constantly going through these phases of like some good days, some bad days, and I'm feeling my feelings. But that I really felt as soon as I started moving, because my body's always been very conditioned to movement with my past athlete background. As soon as I started doing that, it was like I vibrationally felt all of my cells come into alignment, and the new version of me, wrong language, the true version of me was really starting to emerge. And I even remember, like, this is where I remember I was running along the beach down here in Dramana, and I was doing that thing of, well, if I'm not all of these patterns and I'm none of these things, what do I want? And I'm running along and I'm looking out on the bay, and it's one of those beautiful days where the sun was shining and the bay was so flat where the ocean reflects the sky. And I saw somebody out with a jet ski. And I remember the first true desire, or the first true thing that came through for me, was I want a jet ski. And still to that day, like that one selfish desire and execution of that desire, that for me felt like one of the first connections between me coming out of these feelings and not knowing what to do with them, and then who am I? And that was kind of like those two things together was like the light being plugged into me and my lights coming on, and then everything else kind of unfolded after that. But that movement piece was huge, and still to this day, the best piece of therapy I've ever bought myself was my jet ski. It's
Wow.
amazing. Yeah,
That's
we go out
awesome.
and sit with the dolphins, and it's incredible. But
Oh,
that
that's
was,
wonderful.
yeah, that was the
Mine,
first
I
thing.
knew I was waking up when I became irresponsible.
Mm,
So my trauma response was to be codependent and blah, 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 caretaking, hero, everyone's helper. I'm wonderful. My God, isn't she incredible? I stopped being all of that, became irresponsible, made some really bad decisions that I adored.
good for you.
No, thank you. I just love,
Well done.
I absolutely, traveled to bonkers places and just did some crazy shit. And I'm still in that phase to an extent, because if I've spent a lifetime suppressing my irresponsible side, the side of me that is the teenage, I'm going to F around kind of side,
Yeah.
she needs expression. So she's
Yeah.
getting full tilt. And in this year, I balanced it a little bit more with this discipline in there.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to be a grown up again. Oh.
Yeah, gosh, I so like just what you're sharing, like it's resonating so much with my heart and my own experience with it too. Because I had the same thing last year. I'd done enough of the inner child where I felt safe enough to leave like my sort of the family support network, like my friend group that had been so loving and supportive of me during this. And I could literally felt the teenager kick in. And
Yeah.
she wanted to go and play and make some bad decisions and do some dumb things, and
Yep.
obviously within a safe container, kind of like, well, kind of,
Right.
but I could feel how much there was this like teenage energy inside of me. And I love the like my friend family group because they just let me go. They watched me, they celebrated me, they laughed at me. And while I went through this, also integrating this teenage phase, but I feel like right at the end of last year, it was like a switch happened, and I'm like,
Same.
okay, I'm ready to adult again.
Yep.
Like
Same.
it, yeah, it's
But I
really quite.
really don't want to lose that teenage aspect of me.
No, 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 no. She's
I'm
fun.
enjoying, I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, but I'm
Yes, she
enjoying
can.
fuckery. I
Yeah,
really am. Like I'm enjoying the mess and the irresponsibility and not always thinking about the consequences.
yeah, and the spontaneity.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
There's one, there was something that we'd spoken about like the other day before we jumped on here, and it was around like this journey and manifesting. And I would love to go into that a little bit. I know there was one part of me, I was so scared to do this work or feel my feelings because I thought if I start feeling my feelings and my vibration is all over the place, well, then I'm going to start manifesting all the shit. And what I didn't realize is that all that suppressed shit is actually attracting all of the issues. So the moment that you start dealing with that is the moment you actually start moving more towards, well, one, what you truly desire because you're a vibrational match for it, because you get what you are, not what you want. But there's so much distortion within this place and law of attraction.
Yeah. So I think you know this. I think I might have talked about this on the stage when you've been there. I don't teach the law of attraction. I teach what's within consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we attract who we are. I know that's the saying, it's really famous. So
It is very famous.
manifestors, forgive me. I think we're attracting everything all the time. It's just what we tune into.
Okay, yep, tell me more.
So I think it's all there. It's just we're going to tune into that which is a vibrational match to what we're conditioned to experience. So I don't think I think we're manifesting all the time. Every version of infinite reality is here all the time, but we're just tuning into the version that is a vibrational match, and they call that the law of attraction. So I now have many different friends than I did when I started this journey. They were all there. All those people lived in my neighborhood. They all live around me, but I didn't notice them. So all that happened was my consciousness shift, and who I wouldn't have tuned into before, you can call that frequency. Yeah. Now we're tuning into each other, and it's created this huge group of amazing women in my life. So they were always there. So does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
I was tuning them out because they didn't match the misery I was determined to experience and the hard work that I thought life had to be and blah, blah, blah. So that's my view. I tend to teach I definitely don't teach the law of attraction. You knew that, right? You knew.
Yeah, 100%. I've never heard you talk about law of attraction.
Yeah, I don't teach law of attraction. I teach the law of matching frequency. We're only it's all there. The 10 different choices you can have available to you all there, but you're just going to choose choice number 9 because that's a match. For example, we will keep going back to emotionally unavailable men. This is like the perfect example.
Yep, please.
or women, but
Yes.
I'll just use the heteronormative
Yep.
simple example. We'll keep going back to the woman will keep going to the unavailable, emotionally unavailable person every single time, even though there was 9 other choices, because that's a vibrational match, because they're used to trying to rescue the emotionally unavailable person. So they'll keep repeating that. And it looks like the law of attraction, but it's not. They didn't attract that. They're just attracted to that. And that sentence is the key. It's not what you're attracting, it's what you're attracted to. So that's where the patterns become empowering, because I think it's very disempowering to say to somebody, oh, you manifested that. No, you didn't. You're attracted to it because there's a wound in you that needs your freaking attention, and I'm here to love it until it doesn't keep seeking out more of the same hurt. Otherwise you're just going to keep repeating it. It's not the law of attraction. There's no universe sitting here going, I'm going to zap her again with another available person. It's going to keep happening until we learn to heal that which is attracted to that version of hurt or joy or whatever. That's what's going on. That's how I coach it.
Yeah, I love it. I've actually heard this, and I never connected it from a law of attraction perspective. I heard it in a scope of, if you're in a room and your nervous system is dysregulated and you've experienced environments, like if you've been conditioned to having one or more of your parents being emotionally erratic, and you had to learn how to become the people pleaser or the peacekeeper in that environment to be able to maintain the status quo, then what will happen, you will go into a room, there could be 100 people, but you'll attune yourself to the most dysregulated person in the room because it feels familiar. And your nervous system will continuously choose out who you feel connected with, not because you're connected, just because it feels familiar. And there could be 99 other 100 choices, but your nervous system will choose for you because it feels familiar. You're like, oh my God, I've known you forever. Yep. We're going to be best friends.
Yep. And that's when we're running on automatic, and that's where mindfulness becomes so important. It's not the law of attraction suddenly going to change who it delivers to you. It's going to keep delivering the same buffet of people or experiences. It's just you've got to start choosing from a different plate. And this is really key. Other plates do not seem attractive in the beginning.
No. They're boring.
They're boring. So just to get off the roller coaster of going for emotional unavailability, or for someone who needs fixing, who desperately needs my help or whatever, to get off that and to go for people who are stable. Or this is what I now do. I go further. I now don't just be around people who are self-regulated, because that's pretty rare. I just no longer participate in their version of dysregulation. So I used to jump in and offer advice. I now no longer offer. I don't help. I don't enable. I don't rescue. I don't caretake. I just step back. I'm here to support. I'm just not going to offer. I'm an expert in this field. I offer nothing. It really is the most freeing thing you can do, but it's the fastest path to healing, because to not get involved in other people's business is to have to face your own. So there's a lot of that going on. So, and it's also, you walk into a room with 100 people. If you really want to play with how your nervous system's wired, notice who you're attracted to, and then become mindful. Why this person? Like, just treat it as an experiment. Spend 12 months experimenting with who you want to be with. Why this person? What pattern is being run here? What are they bringing that enables me to do what I'm most familiar with and most comfortable with, even if it hurts me? Okay, now I'm going to go talk to this other person who in no way is lighting me up in any way. Why? What? And I just experiment with all these different people, noticing how it's landing on your nervous system. And then at the end of the night, if you're not, please don't be drinking, and the invitation is to be sober, go home and reflect on how's your nervous system doing. So I'm constantly observing how's this person landing on my nervous system? Not because I'll only be around people who hit my nervous system well, although I am making that distinction more and more. It's more, they are a trailhead for me to learn how to self-regulate in the face of their dysregulation.
Yep.
Does that make sense? So it's less only be around regulated people. It's more about, okay, I've got to learn some more about self-regulation when they can't.
Yeah, I play this game too. And like you say that my friend, the one that I mentioned who sat with me, one of my bestest friends at the beginning, we both separately were having this conversation about how we really liked each other and we really like hanging out with each other, but it didn't feel like we'd had the same kind of chemistry between each other that we've had with other friends where we really clicked. And we're like, oh, is it just not there? And I remember saying it to my sister, and she's turned around and said, she goes, no, babe, you're just having a healthy friendship. There's no nervous system dysregulation there. And I was like, oh. And then my friend was having the same conversation with somebody else, and she said the exact same thing. I remember her and I talking about, it's like, oh, we're having a healthy friendship. And we're like, it was this moment of celebration and realizing like, oh, this is what it should feel like. It should feel calm. It should feel peaceful.
Yeah.
It should feel grounded.
Yeah.
It should feel like there's spaciousness, not this like not that there's anything wrong with having that feeling of connection with somebody who's where you want to spend lots of time with them and they intrigue your curiosity and you've got lots of questions to ask. Not saying that. However, a lot of the time coming out of nervous system dysregulation and learning to choose something else, if that is there and there is a pattern of where that leads, just be aware of it.
Yes, and decide, one of my major goals in life is inner peace as I live a great life. Inner peace is not cultivated by constantly repeating the patterns of the past, because the patterns of the past are not designed for inner peace. They're designed for protection and prevention. So choose from the menu carefully with mindfulness.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so I've got a little bit of a left field question for you. Yet having been such an innovator in the coaching space globally, I would really value your thoughts on it. How do you see AI integrating with coaching now that people can literally use ChatGPT to write a book with the influence of Grant Cardone for sales or like Remi Pearson for transformation, and it'll literally write a book and that somebody can put their name and be like, here's my new book. Like there's that aspect, but then there's also so many amazing marketing aspects with it. Where do you kind of see it going? Are you using it within like the coaching institute? What are your thoughts with it?
I think it doesn't write a book yet. It's heading there. And it writes songs, but the songs aren't good. Mm-hmm. I've used it to help me with research. You got to check the research. It's not that great. Mm-hmm. So, but fourth and fifth generation will be phenomenal. Mm-hmm. The experts are saying it will never get to the stage where it can be Beethoven. Mm-hmm. Based on that, it will never get to the stage where it can be a phenomenal, intuitive, holding space coach. Mm-hmm. And there's enough research out of Dr. Dan Siegel, to suggest that co-regulation is one of the fastest paths to healing. So co-regulation is having someone co-regulate with you. A machine is not going to be able to co-regulate. You've seen me on stage. The benefits of being...
Oh, you're incredible.
Well, but the benefits of being in proximity with someone and being this close with them, when they feel the warmth of your touch and they sense your care, AI is never going to be able to do that. I think I've shared this with you before. We've seen the difference with our students in COVID on Zoom versus in the room, and the timidity on Zoom compared to in the room. You must have seen it. There's no comparison. Yep. So we can have an experience and say it's amazing, as our Zoomers say, it's amazing on Zoom. I'll never want to be in the room. But then you get in the room, it's like, oh my God, being in the room is like, I think we're heading for that version of reality where people are saying, AI is amazing. It can do anything. It's helped me out so much. Yeah. And then you get the real thing. It's, oh, yeah, I didn't even know that existed. So I think that's where we're heading. Where I want to see it is I've done, I think there's like 15,000 hours of recordings, upload them into an AI platform. And then any question you ask, I'm answering it. Because right now, even I couldn't do that because I don't remember everything I've said over 15, 20,000 hours of recordings. But wouldn't that be amazing? Get it all uploaded into an AI, and then our students and our coaches around the world could ask any question.
That would be epic.
Yeah.
For all coaches, if they had that for all of their libraries that they've got, because many coaches have membership sites and so many things, that if they had the capacity for it to do that, that would be wild and so helpful.
Yes. Yeah. So that's how I think I see it being used. There will be AI and probably are AI coaches, and more power to them. Again, the polyvagal theory, co-regulation, there's so much research now saying proximity, eye contact, sitting with and beside someone is way more healing and expansive than anything that's said. So talk therapy, I don't think is that effective, and the research shows talk therapy is not that effective. Most of the effectiveness of therapy comes from the care and the capacity of the therapist to hold space, to hold the client in high positive regard, to be non-judgmental, to bring complete spaciousness, all the qualities we're talking about we want to do for ourselves. Good therapy and good coaching is that. The talking is really not instrumental. And my experience has been, and you've seen it now enough when you see me on stage, the transformation occurs in the way I hold space for the person. Very little's got, I don't do any coaching. You've seen, I don't guide them. I don't try and change them. I'm not setting a goal with them. It wouldn't even occur to me. That would be weird. I just create so much space with them to be who they are. They expand into the space and become who they are. What a concept. So AI can't do that. AI can't see into that person and feel the hurt and feel the fear and feel the grief and feel the shame and the loneliness and the sadness. AI can't recognize it or know what to do with it. And unless and until it gets to that, it can't really do the piece that research shows works in therapy and coaching, which is unconditional positive regard from the coach or the therapist for the client, and the capacity to have a huge holding space for them to expand into and be unconditionally, authentically themselves. But it will be able to set goals.
But it will be, sorry, I missed that.
It'll be able to set goals.
Yeah. It'll give you great marketing copy. It'll set goals for you. It's not going to help you feel. Yeah, because I see, like, when I think about it, and because there's parts of it that I'm starting to integrate into lifestyle finance in terms of like some of the front end marketing stuff, some of just being a little bit more aware of what's going on with customers and supporting our business partners, that I see incredible functionality for it like that. And I also like that AI is interfacing with a level of consciousness where there is love, compassion, kindness, and all of the, like, the space that it's being brought into within the coaching space. It's giving it a level of, I guess, artificial heart consciousness to, like, in terms of that's where we're headed, as opposed to the other side of AI, because you've always got two camps about this. I think it's great. And I think the level of consciousness we're bringing it into and how we're training it like this is awesome. And of course, you've always got the other camp where it can be dangerous and it can be that. And I think that if it is an artificial intelligence, and we're teaching it how to evolve and programming it with the tools and methodologies we have that's helping us evolve our human consciousness, it's only going to continue to evolve, right?
Yeah, well, it's a danger. Not everybody's pouring beautiful stuff into AI. I mean, AI right now is being used by the CIA and NASA and a whole bunch of other places around the world where perhaps the goodwill of mankind isn't their focus.
Yes.
So, but that's not going to stop us. Humanity's one common denominator throughout history is we will progress, we will invent, and we will explore, even if it hurts us. That's literally how we're wired. We're going to do it no matter what. We're going to do it no matter what. We literally cannot, even if we in the Western world said, let's put a stop until we catch up with the morality of this and where it's heading, there are other nation states in the world who are going to continue no matter what. Right now, there are countries that are literally geared to figure out how far they can take AI in terms of to be for power. That's going to happen no matter what. So in the meantime, let's do with it what we're always designed to do, which is to bring as much love, compassion, and spaciousness as we can. But the other's always going to be happening. Can't stop it.
Yeah. Cool. So the one I also want to talk a little bit about your podcast, Braveheart, because it's amazing and seeing what you've done with it. You've only had it for 12 months now, is that right?
So Braveheart, yeah, it went into hiatus last year because I did other things.
Yeah.
But it's really resonating with people. I talk about things like this with beautiful guests from around the world, experts in their fields. And it's really, for me, lovely to be an interviewer rather than a coach, because I can bring all my
Yeah.
coaching skills to my questions. So my questions will be
Sexy.
quite probing and quite revealing, which I really enjoy, which means I'm having great conversations with, conversations about men in relationships or about intimacy or about, I've just had I spoke with Michael Gerber, the author of the E-Myth Revisited, who's the biggest business book in the world. I've spoken with Peter Singer, who's the greatest living ethical philosopher we have. I've spoken with the creator of Internal Family Systems, Richard Schwartz, who's just one of my favorite people. He's amazing. And he did a technique with me doing parts integration, which is
On the podcast.
yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
And coming up, we're going to do some more great guests in 2024. So we're looking forward to that as well, getting it back online. Like I said, hiatus last year, then we'll be back to it this year.
Yeah, amazing. These are links for our listeners. We will have these links all over this podcast as well, where they can get a little bit more from you. Now, I know like this journey, like being able to choose yourself like this and go down this path. And if somebody was like wanting to follow this further and work with you and do with this, what's the normal pathway for them to do this?
Well, you can hire me as a coach, or you can get the skills and learn them yourself through the Coaching Institute or the International Coaching Institute. So both those schools offer streams of education around the world. And it really depends on what it is you're wanting to achieve. Working with me individually gives you a very personalized experience naturally, and you get to experience me bringing this to life for you individually, which is, my clients just love. They just stay. Most often people go to the Braveheart app, which is the most affordable way to access me, which is monthly conversations, and you get cool gifts every month. There's masses of content, including everything we've just spoken about in more detail, which is an app that has new content every month. Or you can learn how to do this professionally as you have, and I did for others, through TCI and ICI, and learn the skills yourself and how to impart these skills in a gentle, empathic, compassionate and loving way with clients and build a business around it.
Yeah, amazing. And this is something like, again, we're going to have these links all over the place. So how do people do the investment?
Well, I think with Braveheart app, that's doable. It's really just go to my website to find out more about it, remipearson.com.
Yeah.
So the app's very doable. To do the training programs to become a professional coach and trained and certified, there's some people, I think this, have the finances to just be able to finance themselves into it. We have a pathway where we finance students into it, so they pay it off over time. And so as we deliver, there's payment terms. And then the other way, which is the preferred, is working with your organization, and that's you help finance the investment for their education, so they don't have to think about it at all, and it's really doable at amounts they can manage, and they train with us, and that's all taken care of by you. So there's different options, which is way better than it was for me when I started. When I started, is credit card.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Like usually when it comes to investing in ourselves, we can either do the pay in full payment, or often a lot of coaching places will have their own in-house payment plan. But for some people that can be a little bit outside of their scope, which is where we step in. And what we can do and what makes it really powerful is that we can use personal loan finance to help you get your foot in the door. It's sometimes like $50 a week or $100 a week. And when you're looking at some of these bigger training programs, being able to say yes at that point, it just gives you so much space and capacity within your budget to learn and grow in a space where it's not stressing your body out about money. Because one thing that I've noticed, and this was my journey, like at the beginning, everything was out of my pocket up front. I remember at one point I was paying nearly $3,000 a month in my education, and it was stressful. It was like, am I going to make the payment? Am I going to make my rent that month? And that's what had me go into the space of landing in finance in the beginning, because I had to take a part-time job. And it was then when we realized we could use personal loan finance to fund coaching programs, I was like, oh my goodness, I know that's why my soul's led me here. And this is what we specialize in, helping people get the resources to go down this path, to do what they love, to discover themselves. So if you are listening to this, or if you're in that space where you're wanting to say yes or take the leap, and you've been wanting to do this, like, reach out to us. We're here to help you. We're here to support you. We want to make this easy. We want to make these sorts of resources and support available to everyone.
Yeah, perfect. And
yeah,
if there's ever, I get asked all the time, what's the most important investment you ever made? And to become financially independent, and it very easily is my education. So this real estate is the best investment I ever made. It's transformative. It's changed my life. And to do the journey, knowing you're doing it in a way that's supportive for yourself, is a gift, because it means you're just going to keep showing up with joy. And do it. There's spaciousness, which is kind of the theme of this conversation. There's so much spaciousness around being able to do it, because you've taken care of yourself and made a good decision. And the other thing to say is, current students, you can switch from the TCI payment plan, and you can switch over to Kelly's model at any time during the training.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll also have some links with that. The only thing that I would recommend is just having a chat to the WOW team first, to be able to get how much you need for us to help you. And then there'll be a link where you can just come straight through to us, and we can organize all of that for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really easy process. And also too, it gives you the space. If there's other courses that you want to do within ICI, this is the opportunity to say yes to that. And I can almost guarantee what you'll end up paying on a week-to-week basis will be less than what you're currently paying now. Yeah. So it just makes that journey for you so much more accessible. Because I remember when I was there, like over the 3-year period that I was there was so much that I wanted to say yes to, but at times I was limited. And even still, I still spend a good $35,000. And to this day, has been the best investment I've had. And anytime you put something out new, Remi, I have to be in the room, because I just learned so much from it. And it's a gift to be able to offer this back to the TCI community, or ICI community. There's the old language creeping in, because there's just so much power and value that comes through with it. And even if you don't end up being a coach, if the path doesn't lead you to being a coach, because as you've unpacked all of these layers of yourself and found your true self, and maybe it is that you just want to be a better mum for your family, or be a better dad, or maybe it helps you do something wildly different within your industry and become a better leader, or whatever it is, this sort of investment, it can only enrich your life. It can only help you appreciate everything it is that you're currently experiencing.
Well said. Really well said. It's been easier now than it ever was before. When I started 20 years ago, I was literally paying full. That was it. There was no coaching school I went to. They had no payment plans. It was all or you didn't get in. Yep.
Wow, that's crazy. It really is kind of like a luxury to the privilege, right?
Yeah.
Or you try and save up.
And there was another school that you could only do it if you get a loan from a bank, and the banks weren't lending for that. Yeah, so today it's never been more doable for people, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I love that so much. Remi, thank you. It has been a pleasure, an honor, and a joy to have you on the show, to share you with our audience. Thank you so much. And I'm really excited to read this new book when it comes out.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been so much fun. Such an important message. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Lifestyle Finance Show. If you loved this interview, please feel free to share it, because if it made a difference to you, it will absolutely make a difference to others. And if you are a coach, healer, or mentor, and you'd like to explore getting finance set up for your business so you can get paid in full from day one and financially support your clients in a far greater capacity than just your in-house payment plan, head over to my website, www.lifestylefinanceco.com, and follow the prompts so we can explore this further. Big love, beautiful soul, and thanks for the support.